Morning. All right. Hello, everybody. It is December the 15th. This is so exciting. December 15th, 2021. We are fast approaching the completion of this year. This is absolutely remarkable. And anyways, let me pull up my little calendar because I want to let you know we are not going to meet next Wednesday. Next Wednesday in Atlanta, we are so blessed to have a medical conference that a group that I am associated with is sponsoring this event. It's going to take place next Wednesday, and it's going to be, I can't remember the exact times, but I believe noon till about 5 o'clock. And we're going to have doctors that we've all heard from or are familiar with their names, like Dr. McCullough. We're going to have Dr. Medej, and there's a couple of other. Crystal, I don't know if you've got access to the list of the other speakers, but it is a medical freedom conference right here in our backyard. The location is going to be up in Cumming, Georgia. So very close for any of you who live here and want to go be in a live event where they're going to be, these doctors are going to actually be speaking directly to what we can do, not only for our medical freedoms, but also what can we do to participate in our own well-being, to stay healthy, to stay vibrant during this time of stuff happening on the planet. Anyhow, so that to me is super exciting to be attending, and that's why I will not be here because I'm going to be there. Let me move this over a little bit more. There we go. So it's a little bit more centered. Anyways, that is what's exciting. And then, of course, you know what? Next week, we're celebrating Christmas here in the US. And it's a time to really take in the lights, take in the love, share it, give it, receive it, and let it be all around us so that we are in full alignment with the Christ consciousness, which, as we see, the whole Christmas story, it's made up. I mean, that's just, people made that up. God didn't create Christmas. There's no such thing as a calendar. God didn't create that. It's all purely made up by humans. And when we use it with our ego, because there's nothing wrong with having the human experience, but when the ego takes over, what are we doing with the holidays? Are we using the holidays to make us feel bad about what's going on? Are we using the holidays to compare who gave a better gift, who gave a more expensive gift? Is the holidays a time to show off your latest outfit? Is it a superficial thing? Or can we use the holidays with the Holy Spirit? Not that we don't want to look our best, not that we don't want to buy the most wonderful gift, but if the Holy Spirit is the voice that we're listening to, everything is done unconditionally. Everything is done because it's fun, because it's joyful. You enjoy the process. I remember not that long ago, so it's very fresh in my mind, Christmas was a time of stress, of struggle, of running around town, finding the perfect gift, of making sure that I gave people whatever it was that my ego had me think they needed to receive so that they would like me, so that they would be happy with me, so that they could think I was so wonderful and special. So the holidays became, in many ways, a time to showing off. That's really what it was. Did I have the most incredible Christmas party? Could I outdo last year's Christmas party? That level of stress was absolutely crazy. Then on top of that, you've got the training of our children, our grandchildren. Are we training them to get stuff? Is it all about the quantity? Is it about the biggest gift? Is it about, is it about accumulation, or is it about enjoying the time with family and friends? Does it turn into something that is beautiful and about sharing and leaving everybody feeling good about themselves? Or is it a time of comparing and feeling bad about yourself? So pay attention, the consciousness that you're bringing to the Christmas holidays. And maybe for some people, it's the Kwanzaa holidays. It wasn't too long ago, we were having the Hanukkah holidays. So what exactly is going on in your consciousness? Take an inventory. Are you in the place of love and light? Are you in the space that is enlightened? Is the light of truth filling you with inspiration? Then really, it doesn't matter if you bring a gift or don't bring a gift, because it's not about the stuff. If you're operating at the lower levels of consciousness, you're going to be pride or below. And when pride is involved and the ego is all about what can I get out of this, then you're giving to get. You're not just enjoying the joy of giving and receiving the joy as its own reward. So pay attention to that, because this is really a wonderful opportunity for us to see, are we talking the spiritual talk or are we walking it? And nothing like the holidays to give us that test. Also, we are in the middle of a massive portal, energetic portal, moving from 1212 into 1221. So we've got, right around the corner, just a couple more days. Today's the 15th. We've got just a few more days before we hit that portal of 1221. Are you aligned energetically? Is your heart open? Is your mind calm so that you can receive the energies that are coming to the planet? These energies are like light coming that are illuminating everything that before we couldn't see because it was in the darkness. While our planet was operating primarily from low consciousness, things get hidden. Low consciousness has to hide what it does because it knows that what it does is not okay. So as more light comes in and illuminates, more people are waking up. More people, and the way people are waking up is because they're seeing things coming into their awareness. We're observing right now, which is absolutely fascinating. If you pay attention to the mainstream media right now, lots of people are beginning to quit, to be fired, to be exposed for some of their connections with things that frankly were common in that industry, in an industry that has been so committed to programming people. Things are being exposed. People are retiring and quitting and leaving. Just recently, I can't remember the name of that well-known news personality, but he just posted something recently. Kat, you just said the name. I don't hear it. If you'll let me unmute you.
Chris Wallace.
Chris Wallace. There was another one also. And I can't remember, maybe Brian something.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I can't remember his name.
Yes. And he was saying, there are things that are happening in here that are not good for democracy. And these folks are jumping ship. And the reason they're doing that is because so much of what they have participated in their hearts, they know that it has been detrimental to humanity. So there is an activation of light, an activation of energy that is bringing into our conscious awareness things that we have done, that if we look at them from higher consciousness, we're going to be doing a lot of forgiveness. If you've done enough forgiveness, you're going to be doing a lot of acceptance of those who have been operating in lower consciousness. If you haven't done either of those things, and most people on this planet have not, 85%, maybe up to 90% of the people on the planet, that's a big number, billions of people, have no idea that they have been programmed by mass media. So to begin to see things that mass media have been doing is going to activate, whether it's anger, shame, guilt, revenge, lower level energies. We have to be the grounded beacons of light that they can ask, well, how come you're not so upset after watching this? And you can say, well, I've done my forgiveness work just like me. That person did things that I've done in my life too. This is a time for honesty. This is a time for sharing how we got to the place that we've gotten to where we have more peace in our heart. Wonderful opportunity with this shift in consciousness. We're entering a brand new year, 2022. Talk about those twos. A wonderful time to come into unity, to deliberately create conscious community, and also to come into the place of recognition that this planet operates with duality. We will have, as long as we are on this physical planet, we're going to operate with duality, two voices, the voice of love, the voice of fear, the voice of God, the voice of ego. However, the Course in Miracles teaches us we don't have to let fear run our life. We do not need to let ego run our lives. Ego can be in service to the voice for God. We can use the egoic mind to schedule our calendars, to plan things. It's not going to be much longer, but I'm going to have to plan another move. I have a very good analytical, organized mind. That's my ego mind. My soul, my childlike sense of wonder, I just want to move and let somebody else do the move. I want to just show up there and have nothing to do with it. But my human mind enjoys the process of organization. If I let my ego mind take over, not only would it be organizing things, but it would be stressing and controlling and wanting it to be this way and that way and expectations. And if it doesn't happen like this, it's going to be upset that it happened like that. I'll be putting myself in a place of stress. I've been there, done that. So I know that really well. But I am consciously putting that egoic mind in service to doing the things that need to be done in the world that require preparation and organization, so my childlike sense of wonder can enjoy the process, can be in the moment, can be in a state of wonder of how is all this going to shake out. So we have an opportunity moving into the new earth that we're moving. The planet is ascending. We can't change what the planet's doing. We either catch up with her, or we are going to be left behind. And when I say left behind, we're going to be stuck pushing against and arguing with what's happening, scared of what's taking place. Or, as we are doing clearly, those of us who've been studying the Course in Miracles or studying teachings that are helping us recognize how magnificent we are, how we're in the middle of a great awakening, how it's time that we graduate from the immature human way of being that is selfish and greedy and mature. So we graduate to the mature human, which is a human that is integrated with its divinity, where we operate from grace, from collaboration, where it is for the greater good of all, where everything is done with that in mind and not selfish anymore. So that's happening. The planet's moving in that direction. Are we going with it? I was inspired today, not too long before I got ready to do this with you guys today. I opened up and I said, God, what lesson do we need to study today? And the lesson is lesson 100. The title of the lesson is My Part is Essential to God's Plan for Salvation. Most people that are, everybody who's asleep has no idea how important each and every one of us is to God's plan for salvation. And the reason it's important is because some are going to get dense and go darker, as some are using the darkness to ascend and go lighter. We are in the process of shifting. And as those who are descending and getting darker, because it's their path, it's just what life is doing through them. They have chosen, everybody chooses their journey. Before we incarnate, we know that we are going to be meeting certain people, certain circumstances, but we have the free will choice to recognize, are we going to go down and let ego run our lives, or are we going to ascend because we are choosing to listen to the voice for God? This is all that's happening. So this lesson, number 100, as we read it today, I want you to receive the beautiful teachings in here, because it is really important that we awaken the Christ consciousness in us, that we allow that part of us that just like Jesus did it, Buddha did it, Gandhi did it, activated their Christ consciousness. It is to awaken that. And what a perfect time here in the time of Christmas to have the rebirth of the Christ consciousness. You know, those of us who've grown up in Christian teachings, we've heard about the second coming of the Christ. Well, we are the second coming of the Christ. Each and every one of us has an opportunity to be that second Christ incarnation, that the first Christ that incarnated, who happened to be the man named Jesus, he showed us the way. He taught us what we needed to do. Forgive those who know not what they're doing. Have love in your heart. Know that you and God are one. Accept that you are eternal. This reincarnation, this resurrection is about bringing forth what's already inside of us. It's a resurrection. So we're not creating a new Christ. We are just waking up the Christ that's already in us. Has always been there, but it's been there dormant. So when we accept that we have an essential part in the Great Awakening, it is for, as it says in here, it's part of the plan for salvation. Course in Miracles, when it uses salvation, the way that I've taken the word salvation is to spare myself the suffering that I experienced when I was listening to the ego, which means that I was completely, I had buried the Christ consciousness. I wasn't accessing the light that is already natural within me. So the crucifixion is basically to bring down the ego, crucify it, bring it down, say, I don't need you running my life anymore, and ascending, resurrecting, transcending that Christ consciousness, it comes up. So internally, it's a seesaw internally. We're shifting allegiance to the voice for God. Let it be primary. Let it be what leads us. Let that be the second coming. It's always been there. And the first coming with each and every one of us is when we were little. When we were little, we operated from our Christ consciousness. I look at my precious little grandson, Ryder, and it is just pure joy. There's nothing but pure joy in that little boy. So he is operating right now. He is in his Christ consciousness, pure all the time. All the time. That's where he lives. So the more that we condition him, society conditions him to forget who he is, the more that he's going to be living from his ego consciousness. Ideally, he's got conscious parents, conscious abuelita over here, and we're going to assist him as much as possible to remember that, you know, he is the Christ already. He is his own master, so that he will stay connected to that inner voice. So there's less work that needs to be done later on. But for now, those of us who had fallen asleep, we've got to resurrect the Christ consciousness by waking up the mind to understand the options before us. So the salvation is to spare ourselves the suffering that we have considered normal, to bring forth the part of us that is the light that illuminates the path, not only for ourselves, but for others. And we save the world by showing it what one who walks the talk looks like, by becoming that I'm mixing all kinds of metaphors, but by becoming that solid light. I forget what you call that big beacon that's by the ocean. The word is escaping me right now. I think you all know what I'm talking about.
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse, thank you. So that's what we're here to look at today, lesson 100. So before we get into that lesson, I would love to, anybody who wants to share examples of where you're using the Course in Miracles and you're seeing some shifts in your life because you're applying the simple truth that the Course it has offered us, to give us a path to awaken, a path to come into the truth of who we are, the Christ that must awaken, so that we can be able to live a life that's fun, that's easy, that's joyful, and that co-creates the new earth and experience what the Course says is a happy dream. So just unmute yourselves if anybody wants to share If not, we'll just get right into this beautiful lesson. And for those of you who joined us a little later, we are not going to have a gathering next Wednesday because here in Atlanta, there's going to be a live medical conference with Dr. McCullough, Dr. Madej, some of these amazing patriot doctors who are speaking truth that many of us have seen on videos. They're going to be in our backyard next Wednesday. And if you want details to that, contact me because I'm part of the organization that is putting that together. I volunteer in one of their committees. All right, so nobody has unmuted. Let's go right to, oh, Christo, go ahead.
What came up for me when you asked the question was, in my defenselessness, I am free. Is that the same?
The title is "In My Defenselessness, My Safety Lies," but when we understand that safety and freedom are the same thing from God.
Okay. So I've been very aware of conversations, especially with certain associates of mine, that there's often justification for why things were done, and this almost like defending the reasons why they did certain things when maybe they shouldn't have or whatever. And I'm recognizing that sometimes, that's something I fit into that category every now and again, so it's nice to have that focus, a reminder that you don't have to defend everything, I mean, you don't, so it's to know those moments when they happen, to recognize them, and for me to take a deep breath, in terms of how I'm going to respond.
Oh,
that's all I thought I'd say.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yes, it took me a long time to stop defending myself. And first of all, I had to get comfortable with that. I didn't always need to be speaking. I didn't always need to have the final word or tell somebody what I knew and explain it. It took a long time. I'm talking years to get to the place where I could literally just get present and quiet enough in my mind that I could even say nothing needs to be added. That's why nothing needed to be defended. Thank you so much for that share. Yes, Jody.
Yeah, I just want to add something to that, if that's okay.
Please.
In my defenselessness, my safety lies. So I seriously descended into egoic stuff with a personal business situation. And I was in the past getting defensive, and I engaged last night with this person, and I was not defensive, but I still felt like I'm still not at a Jesus level because I still felt attacked, like I still took it in. So, practicing, and I still actually descended deeper into egoic stuff after the call. So it's a little shaky still, but what I know is that I feel freer now, because none of it is real. And it really comes down to that my safety lies in God, and nothing outside of me has that power. And, it's just forgetting and then forgiving myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. It took me years to be able to allow all of my insecurities to literally be shaken out of me through conversations that were uncomfortable, through situations where I was attempting to honor my voice, because this is a journey of honoring our voice. The only way the ego got created is because we dishonored our voice as children. We stopped saying what we really felt because we began to create a persona that knew how to manipulate others to get what kept us safe. So we haven't been using our authentic voice for a very, very long time. And each time we use our authentic voice and we speak up because we care about ourselves, we are practicing self-love, we're activating self-worth, we're becoming more than enough, is when those challenging conversations happen, it makes our voice very shaky because we haven't been using it. And in that shakiness, if we can just sit and observe the shakiness and know that this too shall pass, we come closer and closer to cultivating a relationship with the one that is eternal, with the one that is not afraid, with the one that is going to guide us to the next best way to be in this world, the next best situation. Because every one of us, when we are in a state of defensiveness, we are always going to be defending something that is actually not in our highest good, because the ego only defends what is in its lowest good. So kind of keep that in mind.
What do you, Laina, can you clarify that for just 1 second? Because I want to get that. So the ego only defends what it's not in its highest good. So for example, if somebody said something and I know it not to be true, defending it would mean
defending
what?
it means that you care about what other people think about you, and that is not in your highest good.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Appreciate clarification.
What is in our highest good is to flow with life, and we're here trying to get by, and we're in suffering. The ego is always attempting to defend, holding on to things that are complete, holding on to things that want to be released. It just wants to hold on until it's ready to let it go. Well, that may be in your lowest good, but your higher good is to flow. That's why flowing is that what happens when you're here, because when you are no longer listening to the voice of the ego, when something completes, it completes, and you appreciate it, you actually accept it like a transition. Oh, on to the next game. Like when we were children, mom and dad say, okay, you got to put those things away. We're going to go to the dance class or to the soccer thing, or get ready for school. Yeah. Or we might resist a little bit, but then children kind of flow. They move, they go on to the next thing. Adults, we get stuck. We act more childish, trying to hold on to what is no longer serving our higher good. But that comes by cultivating trust. So there are so many steps that have to take place to bring us to the place that we are so quiet inside that we can feel the resonance in our heart with what God is attempting to call us to, that is for our higher good.
So the bottom line is, if I didn't have any thoughts of defensiveness, doesn't mean I acted on them, then I would actually hear the voice of God to know my next right step. I think That's what you're saying. And I would trust. Got it.
Absolutely. And, we got to get clear that the voice of God is not anything separate from us. It's our intuitive knowingness that comes from a place that is connected to the all that isness. And it might feel like God. It might feel like Jesus. It might feel like Buddha. It might feel like Mother Mary. It might feel like Metatron. It could feel like any number of things that makes you comfortable, but it is an intuitive knowing that is coming from deep within the well of intuitive. It's intuitive because it's in you and it's connected to all that is. So it sees the big picture of what's possible. And it, just like our GPS, wants to get us there. But the ego argues against the movement of flowing to something that could be better, because the ego is so focused on winning at all costs here, attachment and my good name. When you don't care what other people think, you begin to flow and defensiveness begins to fall away. Thank you so much, Jody. Yes, Tom?
Hey, Laina, how are you today?
I am good. Good to talk to you and see you here.
Yeah, the topic of this about defensivelessness and ego. My wife and I are on two different spiritual paths, and she doesn't fully understand where mine is taking me. And I've gotten to the point to where I don't try to defend that anymore. I just don't respond to her, we need to be going to church, or, so on and so forth. But over the last couple of months, I have been kind of struggling with, these certain expectations that spouses put on each other.
Yeah.
And, here very recently, and through talking with our mutual friend, I discovered, I was given advice that if I simply talk to my wife and say, look, no matter what we're talking about here, and this is when I feel my ego starting to come out. When I start to feel I need to defend myself, I need to, quote unquote, attack the problem, that feeling that we get. If I will just stop myself and tell my wife, look, I am, despite the, the tension we have between us right now, I am wholly committed to you. I love you tremendously. And that's just not going to change no matter how this conversation goes. Not only does that put me back in a place of love, I start focusing on that love center here. But it also disarmed her to a degree, to where she felt this sense of security in our relationship all of a sudden. And it took 2 days past that before, we finally talked everything out. But it was very confusing to her that I didn't want to argue, because initially she saw me responding, from ego. And then, stopping myself, I actually left the house and went down to the beach to do some meditation and came back to a more peaceful place to resume the conversation with her. What was so interesting about that is, by my being calm and refusing to come from an ego place with her, that increased her anger.
Yes.
I mean, she just didn't really know what to do with that. So that taught me a huge lesson, so that while yesterday, when I was interacting with someone during a meeting yesterday, this person, I had a difference of opinion and simply stated that, and this person suddenly wanted to get very defensive about it. And I just looked at him and I said, Bill, you know what? That is probably wholly correct for you. And I love you for expressing that without getting angry at me over it. And you just saw this guy deflate.
Yeah.
And so what you've said today is just, this is what I've been going through for the last week in particular, but for the last couple of months overall. And I just, I wasn't here last week. So I'm like, man, this is right on time. Thank you.
Well, let me add a little bit more to that. I love visuals and they're very helpful to me. And I also like to play with words. But when you think of defense, when somebody needs to defend, is that how you spell defend? Sometimes I forget how to spell things. D-E-F-E-N-D. When you defend, think about, and this is what the ego wants us to do. It wants us to defend our position, because if I defend, that gives me, it sets my mind, it prepares it to attack, to defend my stuff, how the army is, to defend our position. We need to attack. We need to let you know we're going to come after you, to defend. Think about to defend as in to build the fence. So I got to put up a wall between you and me every single time in all relationships, but in intimate relationships, when we defend our position, we build the fence. And when you put up a fence between you and the other person, well, it's a block. The ego wants us to think we're defending ourselves, but we're literally building the fence. And if we're building the fence, we are going to have to protect our side of the fence. And when you build a fence, what do we do with a fence? We build a fence to keep out what we don't want in our space that we are defending. So every single time your ego mind, and that's the only one that defends, goes into defense, know that you are creating a block, leaving out the very people you want to connect with. So we have a lot of overriding of our own misconceptions in our mind, because it's psychological war. We've got a psychological war going on inside of us. Two voices are talking and moving us in different directions. The ego wants to do it by protecting us, because It thinks, oh my gosh, you could kill me. I could die. My body could die. Our relationship could die. Emotionally, I could die. It's all concerned about itself and death. The Holy Spirit, on the other side, the way that we are protected is through integrity, through speaking truth, no fences, no, because then you learn not to lie. The only way we can build fences is to block others from seeing the lies. And it's not maybe that we're lying to them, but we're lying to ourselves when we're thinking, I can't survive if you leave me. Let me defend my position so you won't leave me. I remember with my former husband, Ken, when he was thinking I was cheating on him and I wasn't, I was constantly defending. And what I was doing was I was building a wall around me, protecting myself from this man who was accusing me of something I hadn't done. So because I understood, okay, I'm building a wall, I'm giving rise to the separation. He's attacking me and I'm putting up my fence to protect myself, but it was creating more division. And I had to get really, really honest with myself. What am I defending? Well, I was defending the lie the ego was telling me. So I didn't have a lie that I was like withholding information from him because I was defending because I was cheating. I was defending because I was not, but my ego was lying to me, saying that that's how I would stay protected. Stop, defend yourself so he'll stop attacking you. Give him the truth. But in the defending, I was lying to myself, thinking that if we broke up, if something happened, that I would not survive, that I would somehow, it would be terrible for me if we ended up breaking up, if he really believed what he believed. So when I stopped defending myself, he absolutely went berserk because I was no longer plugging into his drama. And then he thought I was really hiding something because I wasn't defending myself. And it could have been a year, maybe 2 years of this shift where I just came inside and was no longer defending my position. And I began to say things like, if you want to believe that, that's perfectly okay. Then, of course, he would say, oh, you're so enlightened. You're being so arrogant. You don't care. See, you don't really love me. You must have somebody else then if you're not saying anything. And I just began to let it go. When I say let it go, I let him say what he was saying, and I was watching how deep down inside my ego did not want to be wrong. My ego was saying defend, and I was overriding the ego. I was transcending the voice that was telling me to put up a fence, thinking a fence was going to keep me safe so that the ego could lie to me and tell me that somehow I was vulnerable. I could be hurt by this man. And the more that I did not defend myself to him, the more I felt my inner power that allowed me to realize that I am fine with or without this person in my life. And I began to realize in that moment that my ego had me defending to prove to somebody who couldn't be present to the love that was there, attempting to get him to see how much I loved him. If he was attacking this very love that he said he loved, it was a projection from lack of his own self-love. So I had to come inside, love me enough to go, I'm fine no matter what, and let that relationship move however it was going to move, because some are descending and some are ascending. In that case, he was getting shrinking because he was in fear that was not real. So that's how you know. If somebody is in fear that you know is not real, they are shrinking, they are descending, they are contracting. I knew if he's going in that direction, there's nothing I can do to stop that, but I can do something to facilitate my expansion. And if it meant, and this kind of goes to your point, Jody, if it meant that it was time for me to release that relationship, is because something else was coming in my direction and I needed to be available and open for it. Nothing that you have to work hard at to prove who you are is for your greater good. Everything that is for a greater good, there is a sense of ease about it because you're going with the flow of life. There is no fighting, there's no proving, there's no defending. We've got to get clear that that's how we are going to save the world, is we got to stop defending our position and begin to understand God's position so that we can move into that flow. Thank you so much for that share, Tom. Let me
I
go
have a
ahead.
quick, I was just going to ask you a quick question.
Go.
So I get the defensive part, but what if it also impacts you greatly financially? Same thing, just choose to trust and go with the flow. Is that just this simple?
Think about everything that we are defending,
Yeah.
we are attached to. If there's an attachment, that is going to lead to a contraction.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great question, because everything that is has attachments is attached. It's rooted in egoic, in the egoic ground. It's like a hot air balloon. To ascend, you got to let go of the weight. And in the world of duality, the ego has created relationships, position, status, money, anything external weighs us down and keeps us tethered to the ego 3D world. So yeah, all of it that causes suffering is connecting us to want to change something that doesn't want to change. If it wanted to change on its own, it would do it. It would be effortless. But that need to control is and to decide that you're the one I want, you're the money that I have to have, you're the house that I need to have. It's pure ego, because there's lack of trust. All right.
Laina, this is Yuri. I have something just real fast.
Sure.
That I'm very happy about. A friend of mine helped me realize that my ego dims my light. And in order to love myself, that light must shine its brightest. And I am so grateful to them for showing me that.
Absolutely. Our ego is the only part of us that ruins relationships, ruins everything, covers our light, blocks us, because it requires for us to contract. And I'll tell you what, the ego shows up in only one of two ways. It's like two sides of the same coin. Our ego shows up as victim or bully. Two sides of the same coin, that is the ego. The victim is a passive aggressive person and the bully is an aggressive person. Either way, it's a form of manipulation that dims our light because it needs the other person to give up their light for us to be okay. That's how you know your light is dimming, is somebody else has to change what makes them happy for you to be happy. And that's obviously, it's part of the conditional love that the ego is all about. Thank you for sharing that, Yuri.
Absolutely.
All right, lesson 100.
Laina, can I ask a quick question too, please?
Oh, go for it.
Sorry, I joined a little later. I didn't hear Jody's question, but if you explained it, I'll just listen to the replay. Like for me, if I'm, I guess not defending, but explaining to the person, I'm not building a fence, but like I'm opening my house. So like, come in, look, you're accusing me, but you can look everywhere. That's like, I'm not hiding anything. I'm not doing it. To me, it's not building the fence, but opening. So it's not correct. Yeah.
Well, to defend is to protect. If you're just sharing information, if you are just bringing forth just information, you can tell the difference between information that is defensive, because I need to be right, with information that if you take it, you take it. If you leave it, you leave it. But I don't have to protect it. I don't have to hide it. But defensiveness has a righteousness that is attempting to get the other person to change their mind for you to be okay. So that's a distinction.
Got it. Yes.
Thanks for bringing that up, because we got to make distinctions.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Well, we're taught in this 3D world that you've got to defend and protect your stuff and your good name and all of that. So that's part of the 3D world. But to move to the 5D world, we're going to cross this bridge where we're learning that we want to share because we're transparent. I mean, you guys know I put everything out there. I don't have anything to hide. So I don't ever have to defend anything because there's nothing I don't hide anything. But until you become fully transparent, that you can invite anybody, yeah, come in, let me tell you why I did this, and let me share information. It's a process of changing our mindset. So good point, good point. All right, so paragraph number 1. Just as God's son and daughter, obviously, completes his father, mother, God, so your part in it completes your Father's plan. We complete God, and God created a plan. So think about it this way: as a painter has a vision, and let's say they're painting a scenery and includes a forest, and the painter starts putting that tree. So the tree is the child of the painter, but that tree is going to be one aspect that completes the whole plan of the forest that the painter is painting. We are so disconnected from everybody's part in the picture, everybody's part in all of humanity, that we're only focused on me, which is what the ego does. Such selfish self-centeredness. We are ascending. Enlightenment is to come back into the light, and when we return to the light, we have access to God's plan. But nobody can have access to God's plan fully and execute it. Here's the key word: execute God's plan, until you align with God's will for you. And this is part of the journey of surrendering, because we got to let go of our egoic plans, which operate at the level of pride. So below the line of consciousness, this is all unconscious. We have our plan, ego has its plan, and it wants to make sure that I'm right. That's where defensiveness comes in. I got to defend my plan because I got to get it done the way that I want it. Here, just as we complete, a perfect example, just as my 3 children completed me as a mother, it's the 3 kids that I gave birth to. These are 2 births, 1 adoption, but these are my children. They complete me as a mother, my plan to be a mother. Some people have 1 child, some people have 14. It doesn't matter. We all have the number that completes our plan. But my children, their lives are going to be completely different than mine, but they're part of the plan that God has for me as a mother. It has a plan for them as children, and now my daughter as a mother too. So we've got to open up to see what is the bigger plan. Ego hates that. Well, let me just say it a different way. The ego, when it is entrenched in its righteousness, hates that God has another plan for us. It doesn't want God's plan unless it is going through a spiritualized process, and it wants to be a martyr, and it just wants to, I only want to do God's plan, but it's still coming from the ego. So it's manipulative. But anyhow, let me keep going. So salvation must reverse the mad belief in separate thoughts and separate bodies, which lead separate lives and go their separate ways. Salvation, we've got to save our mind from the insanity of the ego. There is a war going on in our mind. 2 voices are talking to us. When the ego's talking, it sounds like 47 voices, but 2 voices are always at work. One disguises itself as many, many voices. I'm the man, I'm the son, I'm the father, I'm the brother, I'm the boss, I'm the whatever. So it shows up in lots of different ways. We have got to recognize that to reverse the mad belief, the insanity in our head, we've got to get really clear that we've got to stop thinking of ourselves as separate bodies and separate parts and protect me or protect my group or protect only my family or only my race or only my gender. We've got to move out of that. Sentence 3, one function shared by separate minds unites them in one purpose, for each one of them is equally essential to all of them. This is what governments understand. Anybody who understands psychology understands, let's keep them divided. And if we are divided and we have separate interests, men against women, haves and have-nots, the white against the black, the jabbed and the unjabbed, the masked and the unmasked, as long as we are kept on 2 sides, the liberals, the conservatives, As long as we buy into a side, we are remaining in the mad illusion of separation. We have to come, as it says right here, one function shared. We come into one place where we share by separated minds. So separate minds who come to one place unites them in one purpose. I have, well, some of you have heard me have this conversation here with our friend Kathy, where she was talking about, Black Lives Matter. And I said to her, to me, I will not defend Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter or White Lives Matter. I will stand only for all lives matter, because the minute you take a side, the ego wins. It puts up a fence, because now I got to defend. Why do Black Lives Matter? Because look at the statistics of all the things they've done wrong to them, to poor Black people. Or the White Lives Matter. Look at what they've done to the poor white people. So we've create a list of things to defend, put a fence between each other. And those who understand the way the mind works keep us in a state of separation, because while we are in separation, defensiveness comes up. We have to be right. And if you're defending, guess what you're going to do? You're going to be quick to attack. And if you're in attacking and defending, you are going to be so busy and so distracted from the big picture of God's plan. So we have a lot of work to do to get ourselves inside at a place that we can get quiet, move beyond our selfishness, our greed, our need to control other people, the games of the ego, the manipulation, the being a victim because, you're for Black lives and I feel victimized because I'm the white lives, or vice versa, and then bullying each other into compliance. What's the government doing right now? Bullying people into compliance. You're going to have to do this if you want your freedom. We need to unite in one place. And you know what's going to unite us is when we all come to the place that we find a common thing that is not at all acceptable, and crazy enough, but this is the way it's going to have to work. For many people today, losing our freedom is not acceptable. So they're willing to die for their freedom. There are people who it's not going to be acceptable to them to have been lied by the media. They're going to totally, completely go crazy when they find out more openly that the media has been programming and manipulating, and we have evidence of that. I mean, we know that this has been happening for a very long time because these minds are run by the ego. It's all about greed. We have to understand the mind that is running whatever they're running. That's why the change has to happen here. We have to be the change we want to see in the world, because the mind is run by people at different levels of consciousness. Some are high consciousness, some are very low consciousness. The more low consciousness one is, the more it needs to manipulate and control through lies, through deception. That's the rules of the game of the ego. Where do we unite in the thing that we finally come together and say we can't tolerate that? Is it going to be that we don't tolerate forcing people into mandates, for example, like these passports that they're attempting to do in other parts of the world? Won't tolerate that. Will we not tolerate the treatment of children? Will we not tolerate the treatment of people by corruption in the government? Most of us are going to come to the thing that unites us through what we won't tolerate anymore. And the reason that is because most of us are so disconnected from what brings us joy, true joy, that we've been conditioned into avoiding what bothers us. Because most people don't, when we're operating from ego, you're not looking for a relationship because of the joy that it brings. You're looking for a relationship because you don't want to be alone. You're looking for a relationship because you think it completes you. That's why the love out there in the world is so conditional. It is not at all coming from a place of giving. So for a while, what will unite us is in the thing that we will no longer tolerate, because we've risen to a higher consciousness that knows we deserve more, but most people cannot unite in freedom, because for many people, freedom is going to the grocery store and finding, getting a choice between 47 boxes of cereal. So we can't unite in freedom because it means so many different things to many people. But we will be able to unite, and it's coming. It's coming. Things are getting crazy out there where we're saying, oh no, I'm not going to tolerate the government lying to me and telling me I need one more shot and one more booster and one more this, one more that. More people are coming together in what we will not tolerate. But when separate minds unite in one purpose, then we are going to begin to really bring down those defenses, bring down those walls, and get clear about what matters more to all of us. Because if we really got to the place where we knew what our heart desires, we all want the same thing. But the mind is so conditioned. We all want the same thing, but the mind is so conditioned to settle for so little that we can't unite down there, because some settle for very, very little and some settle for a little bit more. They don't want to settle for so little. So we have to unite, most likely. Well, I'm seeing it through what we won't tolerate. That we all know really well. Paragraph 2, God's will for you is perfect happiness. The creator that created us wants perfect happiness. Why? Because we are the creator's expression. God wanted to be Laina so it could date Christos, so that it could adopt a dog named Sandy, so that it could live in the neighborhood that has the trees and the squirrels that Sandy likes to play in. God wanted to express through me and through my baby daddy so that we could have the 3 children that we had. So those children could be the expression of God expressing itself more. So God is constantly expressing itself in so many different ways because God is infinite. If you think about God, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. So if God is all of that, then it must be all that we are, because what else could it be? What else could be all of it if it's not in each and every one of us, if it's not in all that is? So we're having to come to the place of realizing that the infinite creator, the painter of this beautiful canvas that humanity is, actually the universe is, it's in each and every one of us as an aspect that gets to connect with the other, so that I, as a woman expressing God, can meet God as a man expressing itself through another, come together into co-creation, whether it's co-creation of a family, co-creation of a business, co-creation of a painting, co-creation of a conversation at a cafe, and we never see each other again. Everything is God coming together. When we're operating at the high consciousness, we're going to be flowing. God will flow, and the right people meet at the right time. That's why we have to move out of attachments, because there is a movement, there is a flow, because the creative mind that sees everything up here is through intuition, through desires, pulling us together, kind of like little magnets towards each other. Do you ever wonder how a business, brand new business, open up its doors? They don't know, they don't know how many people are going to come to that business. They don't have a crystal ball. Yes, they can do estimates and have statistics, but before they had statistics and had all those tools, you open up shop because something moves you to open up that shop, and then somebody comes that wants that. And before you know it, people come to that business. The best way that I can describe that is if you just hover over a busy intersection, especially one in India, you probably have seen that on YouTube, and the traffic moves and flows and everything is so perfectly moving and flowing, because when you're not in your head trying to plot how things should go, you're in your heart and you're flowing with what is. God has a purpose for us, and it is that we be happy. And we're never going to be happy unless we're following what feels good in the moment. And what feels good is always intuition guiding us. When we're doing it from our heart and not from our head, what feels good is always going to be in flow. To the ego, what feels good is always going to be in contraction. It's going to feel good to get something. It's going to feel good to accumulate, to amass, to take away from you, to win and you lose. That's what makes the ego feel good. But what makes the soul feel good is to flow with what, like a child. What do I feel like doing now? Soon the days of these 9-to-5 jobs, that's going to be going away. I mean, it's been changing so much because of COVID, because we've been using the internet online and things are changing, but the days are coming where the rigidity of time is going to go away, because our souls were not meant to be confined. They are meant to be expanded and doing what we feel like. One of the things that I love about having grown up in a Caribbean country, I miss it, is that you wake up, yeah, you had to be at school at a certain time, but then you got out and you had your siesta, and we all took a break for a couple of hours in the middle of the day, and it was just so nice. And then you went back to what you were doing, but there was an honoring the body and the nourishment and the rest, and that is just not typical in Western societies. All right, so God's will for you is perfect happiness. If you commit this to living this way, and to being clear that you only want to be happy and you're only going to do things that bring you joy, the more you make the decision to not do anything that doesn't feel joyful. If you are in a relationship that is not joyful, ask yourself, why am I still in this? If you are in a job that doesn't feel joyful, ask yourself, you have to be selling your soul for a reason. Anything that feels constrictive, anything that feels demanding on you is not part of your joy. It's your body's letting you know. And until people can be grounded in the truth of who they are and find their own happiness, they're always trying to suck it from somebody else. It's just the way that it is, because the ego has lost touch with what gives it joy. It only knows what it doesn't want. It only knows, I don't want to be alone, so I got to have you. Oh, I don't want to be without this job, so I better stay here because I have to have that money. Again, the ego only knows what it doesn't want. It's fascinating. Sentence number 2. Why should you choose to go against his will? If he wills for you to be happy, why are we going against the will of the designer? Well, a couple of things. Let me just tell you this one really quickly. You all know this, so I'm preaching to the choir. But we've been indoctrinated to think that God is a punishing God. So every one of us, the Course says that one of the biggest obstacles that we are going to have to move through, and I remember how terrorizing it was. I had 2 dark nights of the soul. The first one was when I began to see the egoic side of me. Terrorized me. That I couldn't believe I was such a vindictive, mean, judgmental, lying person. That terrorized me, facing that part of me. The second dark night of the soul is when I had to face the fact that I was scared of God, and I had to cultivate a relationship with God. I had to change my mind about God, create a God of my understanding. I went from the church to Laina's understanding, a spiritual God, and it was just an image that I was making up in my head until I began to let myself feel God in me. And to feel God in you, you've got to realize where God is. In you. That's why Jesus said, I and the Father are one. So the mind has to go through a lot of gyrations to move out of God out there punishing, because you're not going to let that punishing God in you. You're not going to accept that. Cultivate a relationship. Change God into your own understanding. For a long time, God was source and spirit and universe. I had to make it something that was a different word than God, until little by little it got comfortable. And it even gave me, for a long time, you guys know I used to call it Jesus. God is the source of the energy of love, because it was moving closer and closer and closer to the truth of who I am, where I have no doubt I and the Father, Mother God are one, because I wouldn't be able to be here and speak and breathe and love if it wasn't because God is being that through me. That's why I accept that my purpose is perfect happiness, because I feel that freedom, that peace in me. And that's what happiness is. It's no longer getting something outside, because I came inside where it really is. So why should you choose to go against the will of the one that makes you happy? The part that he has saved for you to take in working out his plan is given you that you might be restored to what he wills. So we've got to come inside, get to know God, and then find out, what is my part in your plan, God? And once you know your part, and believe me, once you discover your part, you are going to want to do it. And then you will immediately be operating in God's plan. This part is as essential to his plan as to your happiness. Your joy must be complete to let his plan be understood by those to whom he sends you. What does this mean? God is sending to us people all the time to test us, to give us a mirror for us to see, where are we? How are we showing up? Because how I treat you is a direct reflection of where am I in consciousness. If I'm manipulating you, then I'm in low consciousness. If I am, kind of neutral in conversation and I'm okay, not fully, totally available, but not closed off, well, I'm at this level of consciousness. You're getting by. If you're operating in the flow, there's no attachment. Things come, things go. Okay, good, whatever. The people that are in your life are helping you see, are you going up or going down? Is somebody treating you with reverence and saying, hey, you're free to do whatever. I have no expectations on you. That person is rising in consciousness. To the ego, if the ego is operating, it wants to control and manipulate. It's all about me. To the soul that is rising, no, everybody gets the same freedom. I want it for me. I'm giving it to you. You don't belong to me. I don't belong to you. That level of freedom, you will feel it when somebody is attempting to control you, like Ken was doing with me. The minute you release and go, okay, whatever, let it go. And you begin to set up whatever boundaries are necessary to set them up. You begin to feel that in letting go, there is as much gain as there is in holding on to. See, we have to change our mind completely. We used to think that we have to hold on to gain. But when you move the way of God, when you're moving towards total happiness, your happiness is in letting go. Because when you let go, you're saying, God, I'm open. I really do not know what anything is for. Everything is a lesson you would have me learn. And if I flow with you into the higher realms of consciousness, things will happen for me with ease and grace and fun. Everything will fall into place in a way that makes perfect sense. I was just sharing with my sweet beloved, ever since I sold my house, after Ken and I got divorced and I sold the house that my family grew up in, my kids grew up in, I was there for almost 20 years. There's been miracles. And as many of you know, I had friends who said, oh, you can live with me and you can stay in my basement apartment. For a year and a half, I stayed at a friend's beautiful basement apartment. I think, Jody, you might have helped me even move into that. You've helped me move into many places. For a while, I stayed at the lake. For a while, I stayed in my friend's basement apartment. Then I had a friend who had a room to rent, and that came to me through another friend who said, hey, I have a friend who has a friend. And then the house that I'm living in now, it was just magical. One of my clients said, hey, I'm going to be moving. Do you want to stay in my house? Easy peasy. And now this friend is selling her house in the spring. And I was just having lunch with another friend who said, hey, I'm going to be moving to North Georgia. And I said, well, when are you moving? And she said, when she's moving. And I'm like, well, that's when I have to move. And she said, well, why don't you live in my house? It flows. It just happens because I know that I'm entitled to miracles. God wants me to be happy. And my happiness comes from not stressing, not worrying, not striving, not trying to get and control. And we gain through letting go. The ego thinks it gains through controlling. It is absolutely, absolutely imperative that we get really clear about the kind of happiness God wills for us, because it is totally opposite of what the world has taught us happiness is. That this is absolutely powerful. So your joy must be complete to let his plan be understood by those to whom he sends you. It's going to open up a lot more in a little bit. Everybody's coming in to show you, where are you on the joy meter? Oh, this is amazing. So they will see their function in your shining face and hear God calling to them in your happy laugh. The more that you rise in your certainty of who you are, the more people are going to want to grab and get a hold of a piece of you. For a while, that's part of the training until eventually where they can get sticky, kind of like Velcro, stick to you because you're so happy. While I was unconscious, I was a very happy person. So of course, I attracted people at that unconscious level who needed, to be connected to me because I was the life of the party. I was the organizer of the party. Lots of things were done to get approval, to get, oh, look at Laina, she's so awesome. But in that awesomeness, there was a lot of giving that people definitely enjoyed. And I enjoyed some of it, but there was too much ego there. As we are ascending, we are going to get lots of people at different levels of our own journey that are going to show us, are we going to continue to move in the way that says, my happiness is not dependent on you. I don't need your approval. But they are going to need you to approve of them because their happiness is dependent on you. So while you are becoming independent, other people are going to see their codependence. That's exactly what happened with Ken and I. He, in his needing to feel like he needed to control me because he thought I was cheating, he went into this showing me how codependent he was. And I thought he was such an independent man when we came together. On the surface, he certainly was. But when that inner stuff gets activated, that's it. Codependence kicks in because the patterns from childhood, his issues with his mother began to rise to the surface, and his anger towards his dad began to rise to the surface. He didn't know what to do with that, and he couldn't hear me share what to do with that because I was the source of activating. I was the teacher that God sent into his life to teach him that he had stuff inside. He was the teacher God sent into my life to teach me that I had spirituality in my head. I could talk it, but I wasn't walking it. So he helped me rise while he went deeper into his own suffering, into his own discomfort. Where he is on his journey, that's not my business now. But I have a feeling, and I shouldn't make assumptions, but I have a feeling, I'm assuming, he definitely was committed to his journey. So once you hit your bottom, then you begin to rise. But for him, that was not with me. For me, it was with him for me to rise beyond where I had been, but I'd already hit my bottom years before. So anyways, as you understand the map of consciousness, you will know where you are. And this requires an incredible amount of honesty. Let me read just this last paragraph. So paragraph 3, you are indeed essential to God's plan. Without your joy, his joy is incomplete. And, it's not that God's not happy if you're unhappy. That's not it. It's just that all of us are pieces. We're all pieces of the puzzle. So every single one of us, if you take 8 billion of us on this planet, if one of us is dark and not happy, it affects the rest. And in this planet where so many are unhappy, on drugs, on numbing themselves, there's a lot of darkness on the planet. And each time one of us lightens up and we find our light again, we create more light that comes out. I don't know if you could see that better. Maybe that my circle should have been bigger. If all of us are these big circles, but humanity has been trained into darkness, and that's what's happening on the planet right now. At first, in a very, very dark planet where people had lost contact with who they are, operating from their ego, the birth of the Christ in a world that was so dark was like, wow, look at that bright light. Well, we're ascending. More and more beings are waking up. 5%, 10%, 15%. We've got more light on the planet right now. Little by little, we're beginning to express who we are. God needs every single one of us to find our joy. Because when we find our joy, we become transparent. We become vessels of inspiration that is transparent, no longer greedy and selfish. Yes, we will have a physical body, so we'll appear to have a shape, God expressing itself through each and every one of us, but we will be able to collaborate and cooperate, because in transparency, what is there to lie? What is there to defend? What is there to cheat and compete about? So we've got to clean ourselves up. We got to empty ourselves out of everything that is dense and dark. How do we do that? We bump up against other people, and the irritations are the invitations to see the ego's motivation in keeping us dark, the ego's selfish motivation. It's all about me. Let me go on to this next part here. So while you are sad, sentence number 3. Without your smile, the world cannot be saved. Isn't that amazing? While you are sad, the light that God himself appointed as the means to save the world, you're the one appointed to save the world, is dim and lusterless, and no one laughs, because all laughter can but echo yours. Those of you who've been in classes with me for a long time, especially in individual coaching, you know that when you're in a place of sadness and we talk it through and we work through that, you know that I'm very light about that. Sadness is nothing more than information that inside of you, there is a part of you that is ego driven, that is missing something, that is sad that you lost something or something got taken away. That sadness is just that you don't remember your joy. So you go into a place of sadness. When understood that sadness is just part of the human experience, that here we become attached in some ways to things and people and animals and stuff. When it goes away, we feel sadness. We need to learn to be with that sadness with joy. My goodness, I'm enjoying, and I kid you not, you sit and you enjoy the sadness because it reminds you that you're having a physical experience. It reminds you, oh, I loved that dog so much. It's like when my sweet little Max died. I felt the sadness. And there was the consciousness that was observing Laina the human in sadness over a dog that had passed away. I let myself feel the sadness. Unlike my ego would have liked to have done, would have told everybody, oh, my dog died, and posted on Facebook, and this is so terrible, and I need people to feed me and fill me up so that I can feel better about myself, because I can't access it on my own. That's the ego telling you, you can't access your own joy. You got to get it from somebody else. You got to have everybody pray for you so that things go better. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But when you can be with sadness and recognize it, okay, it's just a role that I'm playing right now. I'm flowing with sadness right now. It's what's happening, but it doesn't take away who I am. It doesn't take my happiness away. It's just an experience that I'm having. God, what would you have me do with this sadness? God is going to say, enjoy it. Enjoy it. Feel the fullness of what that brings to you. The transition. You know, when I got divorced, a lot of sadness. There was a completion to that relationship. There was an ending of dreams. My mind, because of the ego does this, had projected a future that was going to look a certain way. So much of the grief is the popping of the illusion of that future that was not going to happen, because in this moment, a decision was made for two people to go separate ways. I don't wish. That taught me. But when we experience sadness, we have to contract. We have to shut down. God's will for us is happiness. So we have to shut down that happiness is really our purpose. So we have to go into and create the purpose of loss, of grief, of whatever. Feel it, and you got to feel it to heal it. But we are about to move into a time when a lot of people in this world are going to experience a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of grief, because a lot of things are about to get taken away, so that people, through loss, through what they don't want, wake up. Why? Because God is sending people who are going to make things get tighter and tenser and more control, so that more of us can ascend and move into the higher dimensions. For a while on the planet, we are going to have a very clear distinction between those who are going to go rogue and dark and those who are going to go light and move into the places of releasing humanity to experience our purpose, which is to be happy. For a while, we're going to see very clearly what it takes to be listening to the voice for God and what happens when you listen to the voice for ego. It's going to be so drastic, so that those who wake up and see it will never allow that to happen on the planet again. Humanity is where it is because we haven't been listening to the plan that God had for us, which is for all of us to be happy. And the reason all of us were not happy is because the ego decided only I can be happy. Well, only I and my friends can be happy. And a very small group of people decided that they get to be happy and everybody else works for them. And we've all bought into that. We bought into the monarchy. We bought into the patriarchy. We bought into the pyramid CEO at the top and everybody else is the minions at the bottom. The military has the big general and then everybody else is, the grunts at the bottom. We bought into that pyramid and thought that that was okay. So in truth, the few, the most contracted, run the life of everybody else. That's not the happiness God wanted for us, but that's the happiness of the ego. What am I going to get? I got to control you. You give up your happiness and then I'll give you a little bit of freedom. I'll give you a little bit of a sense of joy. I'll dish out a little bit, but I get to control it. That is being exposed more and more every day. We are freedom-seeking beings. God created us to be free, have free will to express ourselves. Anybody who's attempting to put anybody else into bondage is a manipulative ego that is operating with a lack of knowledge of who they are. They need to be really, truly, we have to have compassion. Forgive them. They know not what they're doing. Anybody who's controlling is out of control inside. They're scared. They're insecure. They're absolutely, totally, and completely out of alignment with the power and the magnificence inside of them. Don't pity them because they're powerful creators using their power and creating that reality, because without that reality of going down, they're never going to hit the bottom that then helps them move up. But if they meet you along the way and you stand firm, know that your purpose is to be happy. You literally are helping to save the world because we're showing what's possible. When we can be firm with our boundaries, when we can be clear about who we are, what we're willing to do and not do, and not judge the other person. The days of feeling sorry for people have to be over with, because nobody here is anything but a powerful creator. But while we are in the transition of those who are going down to hit their bottom and those who are moving up, and by the way, those who hit bottom can move up. They can join and they begin to become more aware to what we're talking about. But if you're in that place where one is going up and the other one is going down, bless the ones who help you see more clearly where you are. That's how you know you're walking the talk. If you can stay in joy, observing what is, knowing God has placed people in your life, we're all helping each other get to the truth of who we are. The more that you have compassion to others, the more that you are actually living in God's plan. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. You know how we're going to be happy? We all clean up our crap inside, get rid of our insecurities, get rid of our fears, our judgments, our selfishness, our greed. And then in that place, the world is saved from the projection of our darkness. And more light comes to the planet, then we will co-create heaven on earth. We will co-create a new earth. We will have, as the Course calls it, a happy dream. We'll be happy inside of this dream that we're separate. And that dream of separation doesn't have to be in suffering. We can experience it in flow and collaboration. So exciting time. So we are ending here. We got through 3 paragraphs. That's yay. Remember, next Wednesday, I'm going to be at that conference. If anybody wants information, let me know. It's going to be in Cumming, Georgia. Dr. McAuliffe is going to be here. Amazing teacher, doctor who's spreading truth about all these treatments for anybody who has the virus. It's just going to be incredible. Let me know if you want to come to that. And then, of course, we'll meet the following Wednesday. And by the way, my class for next year, Spiritual Mastery, filled up. So it's really exciting. Some of you are in it. This is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for receiving the lessons from A Course in Miracles, because nothing has changed my life like the Course has. And I love that you guys come and get nuggets and receive it and take it, because as you receive truth and you activate it in you, you become part of God's plan too. And then we're all doing our part in the big plan. All right. So I want you all to unmute yourselves. And let's just say, if anybody got any nuggets, share that with me really quickly. And if you don't want to share any nuggets, at least say goodbye. Miss Stacy, hello.
Hi. Oh, this was so much. Oh, I love it. I haven't been on for a long time, and there were so many little nuggets. I loved it. So great. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So good to see you here.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else get any nuggets? Well,
Oh, I loved today's class. I
yay.
just like every word speaks to me. Everything is just genius. I guess I missed you, Laina. I'm so excited about next year. Yay!
I know it's gonna be fun.
I was
Very
getting nervous. I was like, oh yeah, I don't know. I need to think about it maybe today. And today I hear you. I was like, yes, 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 yes. 200% committed.
Yeah.
Okay. I really just heard today that for real, a lot of people, I noticed it before, do not know what brings them joy. So it just spoke to me. We live a lot, and I lived a lot, and maybe still doing it, living to avoid discomfort, not to feel the joy,
Yeah.
and it's really important. That's amazing. It's such a two different ways of life.
Absolutely.
And, that was really important to hear. And yeah, something else, but I'll remember. I wrote some stuff down. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. But Natalia, we have been conditioned to operate from fear and not having enough and not being enough. So it is very difficult for people to operate from what we want. We operate from avoidance, and that takes the conditioning and a reversal. So yes, thank you for saying that. Miss Kat, did you get some nuggets today?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait a second, one more.
yes.
And I just came from a massage, and I was talking to my massage therapist, and I said, wow, something going on in the foot, or I just heard that neck pain or tension connected to buttocks tension. She's like, oh yeah, that's something, the tongue is connected to something in the foot, blah, blah, blah. It's all connected. It's all one. People think it's like different parts, like finger hurts and it just separated, or hand, and it's all connected. And I was laying on the table and I was like, oh my God, it's just like us. And I literally felt like all human beings connected by that kind of like fascia, energetic fascia. And I was like, and we thinking if we separating or trying to hurt each other or be upset, it's like we're hurting somebody else. We're shitting in our own pond, or tub. And I was like, yeah, we're in this water too.
Yes,
You're not doing it to the
exactly.
neighbor who's swimming like on the other side of the pond. You are in this water. So it's really cool. Yeah.
We're all in the same energy and we're breathing the same air, and you breathe in love and you send out hate. Guess what? The next breath, you're going to breathe in hate. So what we put out comes back to us because it's frequency. The energy is permeated with frequency. And are we putting out from a place where we are clear that our purpose is happiness so we can complete God's plan? Or are we in selfishness because our ego has us thinking we're all alone and I got to complete my plan? So thank you so much, Natalia, for sharing.
Thank you. Mwah. Love you all. Love you, Laina.
Love you. Miss Cat, did you get a nugget?
Oh gosh, I got so many nuggets. And what you initially said, or earlier on, you spoke about Christmas and what are we really bringing to Christmas? And I'm thinking, I've been running around getting gifts and stuff that, it's like, but it's nothing in excess and stuff. It's mainly for the kids. But I love that. And I'm going to take that with me to a couple of places, or more than one place that I'll be. So I love that idea of what am I bringing to that? What joy what frequency am I bringing into this group that I love so much? And I just love that. And that touched me. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Plus a lot of other things you said were very direct on things that were really reinforcements of my intuitive knowing.
Yeah.
And I love that reinforcement. And that's why I'm with you all these years. So, because I'm always getting nuggets and it brings me back to remembering who I really am. And I thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And that the reason for the season is for us to remember that there is a very important plan for us in the salvation of this world. And that is to accept that we are the light of the world and shine that light, shine that higher consciousness, take that higher consciousness wherever we go. When we do low consciousness, we dim our light. High consciousness, we are in our full glory, expressing our joy, which takes nothing from anyone, is there to give. You're giving no conditions. When we are in our darkness, we contract, we shrink our light. We are dark, we're dense, we're there to take. We're controlling, we're manipulating. We got to get other people to do something so that I get to be okay. Nothing would be a better gift during this season than to gift the gift of releasing everybody from our controls, from our condemnations, from our conditions. Just release everybody to be where they want to be. That actually brings us closer to true love, which is how you then feel God inside of you. And the more that we release everybody to be how they want to be, the more that love, that God comes alive in us. So that's, I love you all so much. Thank you all so much for coming today. Such gratitude from my heart to yours, because I get nuggets too, because this would not have been said today if I didn't have you guys to share it with. So in the giving it, I've received the nuggets that are wonderful reminders for me as well. So we won't be here next Wednesday. Again, if you want to come to that conference, make sure you text me so that I can send you links. Otherwise, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. And I hope you let it be merry and bright, because you are the one who brings the brightness and the merriment to wherever you go. All right, everybody, unmute yourselves and let's say goodbye. Thank you. And I love you all.
Thanks, Laina.
Bye,
Happy
Merry Christmas.
holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Thank you,
everyone.
Laina. Love you
Happy
guys.
Hanukkah, Jody.
Love you.
Happy holidays.
Bye, bye, bye.
Love
And
you.
I love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hearts, hearts.
Thank you.